No, no more swearing. So you're live.
Oh, it's like, I almost swore right there. It is.
Yeah.
So,
How cool is that? I'm like, good, I got an activity for a sunset on Saturday afternoon. Same lights, yeah, that's
What's going on? How are you?
see the age.
I know somebody, yeah. Yeah, I didn't.
Coaching the first time. I've always yeah, I wish I was like one of the high school kids that go and show the kids. Yeah.
we'll go about 2 minutes, guys.
Sounds just a good face off. But I have a chance to get someone spearhead cancer. Yeah, I really want to. Good. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Feel good about the season now. I played well. Yeah, it's my heart's out. You are. Speaking. Give good feedback. I'm really happy. Feel much better about it. Yeah. I just feel bad practice and all stuff. And I just want to like at some point make sure we do a lot of 4-on-3 later.
They should have been.
It's big in this one. I want to teach them like that part of it. But I want to when do we want to start? No.
To your point, so one of them, everybody to know each other's strengths.
And then I don't know how you feel about having everyone play at the fit. I was telling this last start zeroing in their position and what they want to do. So that's how I felt. And there were certain kids still I know they couldn't handle their feelings. But I love when some kids like I just want to play. I want to play that.
All right, guys, we're going to start about a minute here.
First year?
Is everyone here coaching mostly like 5th to 8th grade, or is there anybody coaching high school or younger than 5th grade? Everyone a little both, or what's the majority? 5th to 8th. 5th to 8th. Yeah, perfect. That's awesome.
Is Jake playing this year? So I'm glad.
Yeah.
So is that where Ryan went to?
Yep.
Because we had no team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Max went over there, and Brady Richards signed up. I don't know if you know that name.
Yes.
So yeah, we've got a few people over there.
I'm glad they got a team.
Yeah. He's athletic. He's very athletic.
And then Jamboree went well.
Yes.
That was awesome.
fit really well over there. It was fun.
All right, guys, we get started just because we only got about 45 minutes. So for the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about kind of just defensive stuff. I'm going to talk about kind of my bread and butter defensive drills. My name's Ben Smith. I played at Harvard. I graduated in 2010. Played a 5th year at Hopkins. I played on the Israel national lacrosse team from 2013 to 2018. So I also coached at Harvard from 2013 to 2015, so I was D coordinator for 3 years there. Right now, I just coach youth, I coach a lot of middle school guys, I coach a lot of high school guys, I do a lot of individual small group training. I've worked with college and pro guys on the side, but I really, my focus now is kind of what you guys are doing. Like, this is kind of my wheelhouse. I want to work with younger guys, I want to coach coaches, and I want to get kind of the right message out to as many players as possible, and I think this is kind of where it starts. Like, if you guys are all coaching 50 or 20, 30, 40, 50 to 100 guys, we're covering a lot of kids here, and that's kind of what my focus is. So there's so much on defensive stuff I want to talk about, so there's only so many drills we can cover in one session. A lot of it's going to be individual defense, approaches, footwork, kind of recognizing areas of the field. If I had extra time, and I think we're going to try to create time for this, whether it's a Zoom or another coaches thing, like talking about goal line defense, off-ball positioning, pick play. I coach a lot of middle school kids. I coach a lot of higher level and also kids who are just picking up the game at the same age groups that you guys are coaching. And all this stuff's becoming more and more relevant. The higher level 7th and 8th graders are getting coached almost like college kids now, like when I was playing. They're getting coached to handle picks, off ball, on ball, with the same details that I didn't get in high school even, and I got closer to like sophomore year of college. So I think emphasizing little details, I'm actually amazed how well kids pick things up. And I was talking to Coach Marty Bose next door, like we talk a lot. And what's kind of amazing to me is when I coach like even the younger than 5th graders, I feel a lot more confident. Maybe it's just because I'm biased, I'm a defensive guy, coaching them how to do, like getting a good defensive stance, break down, back pedal, get their hands on guys, much better than I can teach catching and throwing ground balls to a kid that's sub 5th grade. They can't catch and throw really, no matter how, even the good ones. You see like a Long Island team every now and then in 6th grade, they can bang the ball around, but it's pretty rare. Like, it's like unbelievable how good the stick work needs to get, and it takes time. Like, they're just not strong enough. But one thing I've noticed is how like that 3rd and 4th grader can like kind of do what I'm saying here. So why are we not emphasizing some of the defensive stuff? Give them some confidence. It's going to help anybody too. Like attackman, it's going to teach them how to ride properly. Middy's got to be 2 ways. Defenseman got to be obviously able to do all this. So that's kind of like where it starts. And I usually have a PowerPoint. They don't have a projector here. So I'm going to kind of be looking at you. Sorry about that. I'm going to kind of go back and forth. But the drills we're going to be focusing on today, W approaches, W footwork. I try to make things as simple as possible so that you guys can do this in your practices, give kids things to work on when they're not on the field with you, and just kind of build in kind of concepts and intangibles that are kind of part of these drills that I think create more of a complete lacrosse defenseman starting from, honestly, 3rd grade up. I think below that it gets pretty tough, but I still try. So kind of like a lot of these slides that I've created, this is really kind of my playbook when I was coaching at Harvard. I was like, we have to create an identity. But then when I looked at it more and more, I was like, none of this changes whether I'm coaching a 7th grade team, a high school team, introducing kids to the game, or if I'm coaching the college guys. So it starts with an identity. Part of that identity is defend the paint, and I'll show you kind of what I mean by defend the paint in a second. Communication, organization, just like having guys follow rules in these drills and communicating is going to just benefit them as athletes and lacrosse players. Accountability and discipline, athleticism and physicality. So these are all concepts I'm introducing to kids as early as we start these drills. And then finishing. So finish to me is like, there's a lot of kids I coach who start to get the defensive concepts, but they don't work on their stick work, and they can stop a ball, but they can't pick it up and make the next play. So you got to be a complete player as early as possible now. And we work a lot on stick work. I'm sure all you guys, first 15, 20 minutes of practice, we're doing stick work, right? Just like any lacrosse practice ever. But I also try to tell these guys, like, it's to be a good defenseman now at the high school and college level, and I try to put this in their ear in middle school, you have to be able to be a complete player. You're not a defenseman, you're a lacrosse player, right? And you got to be able to get the ball at the field and make plays where just the game is just evolved a lot, just like a lot of other sports. So on ball, we got to communicate, dictate direction, disrupt offensive timing, meaning I was coaching guys from like St. Sebastian's yesterday, and like when you get run by without getting your hands on, you're not disrupting any offensive timing. They're running their offense clean, right? Like if you can get your hands on, if you're along so you can get your stick to a guy's body early and actually dictate some direction, you're disrupting their offense. That buys time for 5 other guys on the defense, or including the goalie, 6 other guys to communicate and make off-ball plays. So I'm a big proponent of like, and I think everyone here should be, is like learning how to get your guys to be disruptive at the very least. If they're not going to be perfect at taking the ball from guys or forcing a guy one way, I'm like, at least be disruptive. Just don't get smoked and let the offense run perfectly clean. All right, and then defending the paint, so we'll get to that. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about, I'll kind of teach the drills, and as we're teaching the drills, concepts will come up. I'd rather get the drills in and leave time for questions and details and stuff at the end, if we have time, obviously. So I'm going to talk about really 3, it's kind of 4 drills, and then there's bonus ones we can kind of, if we have time. But sorry, I'm like, 1, I'm a terrible drawer. 2, I got here like 15 minutes ago and I tried to put this all on paper from my PowerPoint. So if you guys, I can share this stuff. It's going to be a lot easier for you guys like to see it probably that way. It's much cleaner. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So we have goal line extended. I look at this as like the football hash. I think it's like about 6-7 yards off the pipe, right? So you got the foot. It's
Could you move that to the middle? It might be a little easier.
a little easier, more of the middle.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Can you help with it?
No, it's this little camera thing. It's gonna be like.
Oh, my bad.
It's all good. It's better. It's whatever's better for you guys. Let me see if that like. Is that better? Is that a little better? All right, thanks. All right, so I got like 12 yards and 15 yards, and sometimes these numbers seem arbitrary, but if you know where the top of the box is, 20 yards, it's all, you take a ballpark, 5 steps in, you're at 15, and then a couple more, you're at 12. So I look at this like, that halfway mark almost between goal line and the restraining line is like a really important area. Like especially with younger guys who don't have as much range in their shot, 10 yards becomes really important to me at the middle school level, like where your point guy is on fast breaks, where I'm telling my middies to get in the hole when it's a 5-on-4 or 6-on-5. Like recognition of the field, the defensive side of the field as a defenseman or midi or any player on the field now, I try to get this in kids' heads. The sooner they can learn where they are in the field and be able to react to that creates really high IQ at a lower age. Right, and I've seen college guys who don't have good field awareness. And it's like, if you can teach this younger, so a lot of my drills, I try to mix in field awareness to it. So essentially think about like a 3-point arc in basketball. You're going from goal line and the hash all the way up to 15 yards and down. That's even a little extended for middle school, but honestly, I don't mind that. It's like, if we're actually keeping guys out of this area, then we're going to be a really good defense. Maybe you have a little leeway with that. It could be like 13 yards at the top of the key, down to 10 yards, but 12, 15 is kind of what I do for my high school and college guys. If you coach like in the PLL now, you got to raise this up to like 18 yards because of how much range these guys have on their 2-point shots. But this is kind of just defending the paint. You can call it whatever you want. You don't have to call it the paint. I know some guys call it like the hub, the hole, or like, I like the paint because it's just like basketball, makes it kind of simple. At Harvard, we called it the shield and just put like this little shield here. So it looked like you guys can put whatever, if it fits with your team name or mascot, whatever works. All right, so first thing we're going to talk about is these W approaches. Like I said, a lot of these drills are simple. You can set up the cones, but if we got to deliver the right message to the kid and give them the right reps. So essentially, I'm setting up a W. It's about 10 yards apart. So if I was like setting this up, I'd say like they're 10 yards apart, but probably like if you were doing it on a football field, it makes it a lot easier because you could just go like 10 yards apart, but 5 yards up, 5 yards up. They're about 45-degree angles. It's all arbitrary. We're just working on like different steps. So with this, I line up my guys here. And what we're going to do is essentially approach, back pedal, shuffle, go. You'll hear me say that quite a bit. So we're going to back pedal, approach, set our feet, back pedal, shuffle, and go here. And we're going to approach again. So everyone's getting 2 approaches. So if I'm starting here, like the way it's set up now, I usually like to have a coach here and a coach here, or an injured guy, or someone. Like I like having a body at the court because I find that guys, it's easier to replicate to an actual game situation. I find when I just have a cone here, guys kind of don't know exactly where to go. what I want them to do is break down stick length from the ball. Okay, I want them to break down stick length from the ball. So if there's someone there, stick length from the ball is getting your stick out and actually getting the top of your stick to their head. So if I don't have someone there, what I actually want them to do is get the head of their stick right over the cone, which some guys can get, but it's hard to it's hard at first for guys to get that. I see them getting their feet all the way to the cone. I see them kind of all over the place. When I have someone there, it's a lot easier. And I wanted to talk to you guys about this stuff too. I'll kind of introduce as we go. I usually have something like this, because I've been hit by enough kids to know when I have like 10 kids going at once, I'm gonna just get hit in sensitive areas. So I keep this here, and I'll be like standing here. So where's my left hip is right here. This is like my belly button, this is my right hip, this is my left hip. So I think these are great investments for kids. And I'll tell one of the main reasons is teaches them how to not be scared to hit each other. And if they're holding it, they're not scared of being hit. And then actually I see that translate to the field. And like I use this one for ground balls. I just whack kids with this. And then like young kids, and they learn, and like it doesn't hurt, and they learn how to sow contact on a ground ball. And then that really translates, because how many kids shy away from ground balls and they think they're gonna get hit? And then this one I love for cross-checking. I'll tell you how we fit this into drills, but this is another great one. So it teaches kids how to cross-check the right way. It teaches them how to put the target between their hands. I see too many kids punching like this. That's not getting control of a guy. You want to control a guy, cross-check between your hands, keep bodies between your hands so they can't roll off you. And we'll talk more about the cross-checking, but I don't work for Gilman. They charge a lot for these. I'm kind of like, I feel like they'd have a better market if they didn't charge as much, but this one I use like every practice. Like I have guys do ladders, break down on me to warm up every practice. And this type of drill, something like this is really valuable. You don't need this exact Gilman thing. You just need something that says, here's the belly button, this is my left hip. If you're breaking down on me and I'm a lefty, so these are my feet, this is the player's feet, I want your focus, your vision, your stick right here. Like right here, not here, not here. This is it, so right here, this is my head. I give them small targets. Young kids, like starting from 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they are looking at like my hip bone, or my belly button. And that's where their stick and vision is gonna be. The next part of this though, that like, again, it's all about the details. You can set up the cones, you can have them look at your hips, but if their feet and body aren't in the right spot and they're not in the right stance, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't translate to a game. So for this, I have, the first thing I talk about with all my defensemen before we even like get into these drills is like stance. So if I like got any of your guys' teams and I have them on the goal line, the first thing we're going to talk about is their stance. So when I'm going to just be like, all right guys, line up, get your stance, and kids you'll see will be like staggered, they'll like bend their knees in, those sticks will be here, some sticks will be here, some sticks will be here. It's I'm like, just get shoulder width, get athletic, point your toes forward. Start simple. This is like my default stance. Just like you'd be teaching a goalie or face-off guy stance. All right, balls on my feet, butt back, knees down. I don't like knees coming in, right? I'm athletic. I put my hands right here, okay, and then I get my stick out. Really simple, like nice and balanced. This is the same way I learned how to stand on hockey skates when I was a hockey player growing up. Got nice and balanced, okay, stick out, and then I'm getting my stick pointed towards the hip, and I'm looking at that hip, and everything's connected, right? So if this is, let's say this is the player, like if I'm gonna approach a righty, this is his right leg. I'm kind of improvising now, but it just makes sense to kind of introduce this now. It's like I'm gonna get my right foot lined up with his right foot. So if I drop my stick and I line up my toe, it should line up right with his toe. This is his right hip, and I'm a long stick, but I'm carrying a short stick right now, so I'm just gonna get a little closer. I'm gonna lay my stick right there. My right foot's lined up with his right foot. If I'm gonna go to the left side, right here, I'm gonna line up my left foot with his left foot. Stick on his left hip. Simplest way to teach, take away a lefty, take away a right. I see coaches be like, don't give up top side, take away right hand, take away left hand. Kids have no idea what we're talking about half the time. Just like line up your right foot with their right foot, get your stick on their right hip, do the same thing for lefties. Or if you have a super good athlete, be like line up straight up, get your stick out right in his belly button, make contact early, and just like dominate the matchup. If you don't need to take away a hand, or like that's like a nice default. Sometimes I have guys, I did that more in college. Like I feel like at the younger levels, just like, you know, keep it simple. Right foot, left foot, left foot. Sometimes I'll line up straight up if we really want to like not, I don't know. It's like playing straight up in basketball or football. Just like make a guy guess a little more. So in this drill, this guy's sprinting, chopping, breaking down in his stance. So when I like break down in my stance, I see a lot of kids start this drill and they're like taking big steps and they're like thumping into it. I'm like, when you're breaking down, and this is what I'm saying, you can teach this to young kids, they're light on their feet, they're like flexible, they're not like us who are like tight and stiff and all this stuff. So I just like, I want to see this. Like I taught them to like chop. The last few steps, you're gonna be like chopping, and it's always chopping your feet. You'll see a lot of these drills, like everything is chopping your feet into a stance, chopping your feet to change direction. So here, we're chopping our feet, we're getting low, we're landing our feet, landing our stance, and now I'm lined up, in this case, left foot on left foot. So all I teach out of every single dodge, whether a guy does this, he gets ready to split, he does any type of movement, my first movement, I'm broken down on his hip, is back. I don't fall for, and I teach it, I coach it, have a lot of high level 7th and 8th graders, and it's harder than it sounds. I don't know why. It takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of athleticism to stare at a guy's hip, break down, and just be ready to do this. They see a guy go like this, they want to step here. They see a guy go that way, they want to do this. But if you lose your gap. So one thing you're going to hear me talk about today is like gap control, maintaining your gap. So if I'm a long stick, that's 6 feet. I want to maintain at least 6 feet off their initial move, okay? So if let's say pretend it's a long stick, if this is 6 feet, I don't want to lose 6 feet. I almost want to be 7 feet after their first little move. And even when I break down on a guy, I don't want to break down right at 6 feet. I tell my guys, break down at 7 feet, and then like your last couple steps, you're just getting a light touch on a guy, but my stick isn't weak. My stick is strong. If I break down 7 feet, the guy doesn't feel like I'm touching him, but if he moves forward, like he's leaning on me, I won't let him move. Like my stick is strong, but I'm kind of right off their body. Does that make sense? So it's like a light touch. So if it's like on this, I'm just kind of here, light touch. So I even sometimes early on teach kids like, we're gonna break down just short, and we'll do a drill where I'll like blow the whistle, they'll touch, they'll back up. They'll touch, just to work on those last like little steps right here. Just kind of going like that, in and out. Okay, so
Throwing a poke check first.
a lot of coaches like I'm not actually like, I don't want them to lunge, I don't want them to extend, I want them to learn. I'm not against throwing checks while you're backpedaling, all that. That to me is like higher level. I want them to prove they can get in like this stance comfortably. Some kids will like naturally be able to do it, and I'm like, that's awesome. I'm not against checks. We're actually, by teaching positioning and footwork, you're setting them up to be good checkers. But I don't teach them to throw, I don't teach all of them to throw a poke check. Just keep your stick out. Some of them will naturally kind of throw a poke here and there. I'm okay with that, but it's not about throwing checks, it's setting them up so they can throw checks and not be out of position later. I think that's like the big thing. Some of my best players now, and a lot of coaches say this, but a lot of it comes from this position, they throw pokes, cross checks, slaps, lifts, and that's how they're causing turnovers.
Should the defending player always have their stick in their strong arm, or?
Yeah, they're always strong-handed.
Always strong?
Yeah, ground balls, defense, they're always strong-handed. They pick it up. I've probably only made like 3 off-handed passes like in my last year of college. Like I just don't. I like carrying the ball in my offhand, but like there's so many ways to catch with your strong hand. I'm like, I'd rather be sure. You know what I mean?
Even if you're a right-handed defender, you've got I guess the stick would. Well, I guess it would be right to right.
We're in the next show. I'm gonna talk about like the stick positioning too. So that's gonna be always strong-handed. I've seen a couple high school, college teams switch hands. I'm like, that's so hard. My short sticks though, I don't mind if they switch hands, especially offensive middies who can shoot with both hands. I'm like, you clearly can handle the stick in both hands. Yeah. So I'll try to have their stick to the inside. So like I'm taking away a righty, then I'm taking away a lefty. And I'll like let them, if they're comfortable, I'm like, it only helps. I think if they feel comfortable doing it, but if they look awkward, I'm like, strong hand. Okay. Same thing with ground balls. Almost like catching and passing in a game too. I'm like, a lot of coaches are like, stick to the outside. I'm like, okay, I'll go this way. I don't need to go this way. Just catch it like this and turn upfield. So I'm kind of, that's just how I play. That's how Canadians play. And if we can move better than the Canadians, but handle like that, I think we were actually accelerated. I'm not against offhands. I'm just saying, you talk to Coach Bose, Marty about it too. He kind of feels the same way. So again, we're just going to break down, back pedal, shuffle. So now that I'm on ball, break down, back pedal. So I'm staying low. A lot of kids do this. They break down and they stand up right away in the drills. And I'm like, stay athletic. You're playing somebody, but in the drill they forget. And then they back pedal, shuffle a couple, open up, and then we go. And this is just kind of warming us up. Then we're going to break down, back pedal, shuffle. The reason why I add the shuffle is I'm trying to teach kids not to do this right away, because then guys will cut back, they'll roll, and your hips are going one way, and it's very hard to do 180-degree turns with your hips like this. The more you can just play a guy here, you'll watch high school, college, pro guys, they like don't turn their hips until they need to turn their hips, right? They can keep guys in front of them, just toes forward, right here. And that's why I try to do a lot of shuffle drills, but then we introduce the crossover, because at some point, you're gonna need a crossover, right? You're gonna need to match feet with someone, and we'll get to that in the next drill. So I'm gonna move on just for time's sake. If you guys have questions, we can circle back. So, going to the next thing, W footwork. The best part about this is like, it's already set up. We just went like, the cone, oh, that's so sticky. All right, there we go. The cones are already set up. We go to the next cones, and now we're set up for another drill. Totally different drill, totally different skill sets. But like you could just do these two drills, and your defense is getting a ton of good on-ball work. Okay, so this one, instead of starting with our feet like running to this cone, breaking down back pedal, now I'm going to start. So like let's say the cone's down here, I'm going to start like right here, my feet facing the cone, and I'll start with like the next guy in line will kind of be my dummy dodger. Doesn't mean they have to go. I'll just start left foot on left foot, stick on their left hip, back pedal, shuffle. So I'm just going to shuffle now. And what I'm working on here is my shuffle. Because this is another thing it's way easier to teach a 5th to 8th grader defenseman how to shuffle really well than teach them how to like do like crazy stick work, shooting and all that. That will come, but that's hard for a long stick. Like teach them how to do the important defensive stuff first, I would. So when I shuffle, I see a lot of kids first go like this. They're like athletic, they're like standing up straight. In this, I'm teaching them how to shuffle like this. Feet are apart, like this, small steps. Because that's how they're really gonna have to move if they wanna keep their feet under them and they're like backpedaling against the guy and they have to shuffle, they're gonna be right here. All right, I don't want them to be like trying to shuffle 100 miles per hour. This is all like small steps and they'll learn how to move faster. They're gonna kind of move like a crab there, right? So we're working on shuffling. The other thing we're working on here is how to drop step. And like actually coaching drop step, I never was coached to drop step until I was like a sophomore in college. I knew what it was. People were like, you gotta like drop step and do all this stuff. But I never was coached how to do it. So here, we're gonna backpedal, shuffle. So if I'm like backpedaling and shuffling, let's say, like this is a cone here. You can see, there's obviously not a lot of space, that's all right though. So I'm gonna backpedal, I'm gonna shuffle. When I get to the cone, you see how I'm drawing this around the cone. Because one thing you can also teach kids is like little details that are gonna help them later as they become, you know, stronger athletes and players, is going around the cone. A lot of kids cut the cone, right? And like at the college level, that's like sprints. At a lot of high school levels, that's like sprints. Middle school, I'm a little more lenient. Like it's just kind of like, you know, emphasize it. I'm not afraid to be a like strong voice with them, but I'm like, gonna be like, hey, we're going around the cones. We're going around the cones, right? But a lot of kids just cut the cones. And that's like, it's not a good practice habit to obviously do that. So here, I'm gonna shuffle. I'm gonna get past the cone. Now the next cone, I'm going around this cone. The next cone is like flat 180 degrees. So I'm gonna get past it. And when I get past it, my drop step is gonna be, sorry, when I get past the cone, my drop step's gonna be all the way. I'm gonna try to point my toe to the next cone, even though I'm going this way. Because what kids will do is they'll try to go this way, and they'll barely drop step. They won't point their toe. They should, at the very least, they should be pointing their toe to the next cone. What I try to do with all these young kids, because they're so flexible and like their bodies are dynamic, is like exaggerate everything like twice as much as you need to. So, like even when I'm coaching throwing and catching, like get your arms way up, way out, and we're gonna work on like overhand shots. We're just gonna like come like all the way over the top. So I'm teaching my defensemen how to shoot like that. But here, we're going all the way past, drop stepping here to go here. That makes sense? So I'm gonna do the same thing. If I'm going this way, I'm not just gonna drop step here. When I drop step, I always point my toe. So my body will just follow where my toe's going. So I'm gonna go here, and then I'll shuffle out. So what I'm working on is shuffle, 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 drop step, shuffle, 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 drop step, shuffle, 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 drop step. And then when I get to the last part, you'll see the feet start and finish the same way. So when I get to the end, let's say like this is the last cone, I'm just gonna set up my feet like that. So I'm shuffling, and I'm gonna kind of just simulate a goal line, like close the gate. Really simple, but I'm like landing athletic right here. Like I'm like playing a guy goal line. So you're getting a free rep of like a little goal line extend and hip movement there, okay? So that's how I start with the shuffle.
Sorry, you were talking about coming up to the cone and breaking down. Are these two different ways to come?
Yeah. So
Okay.
this the first one was like an approach drill.
Yeah.
This is like you're already playing a guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like playing a guy moving laterally,
Yeah.
and I'm just he's changing direction. I'm shuffling, he's going this way. Now I'm gonna just like stay with him shuffle.
Okay. And then
You
the other
send
one,
it off
Say it again.
the other one is a breakdown, drop back.
So,
shuffle.
yeah, the other one's breakdown, back pedal, shuffle.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
working on like
Got it.
approaching the ball.
Got it.
This is like moving with a guy laterally. And no, I'm doing this skeleton. There's no other offense. I mean, you could have an offensive guy dummy dodge, but I usually just like send a guy, hit the second cone, next guy goes. Because I'm trying to like think about practice and like tempo and reps.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the other side of this is like doing these drills that work like for defense, but also giving your guys enough reps and that type of stuff. So next thing I introduce is the crossover. And the one thing I should have mentioned in the original part of the drill that I'm going to actually just like switch to this, pretend this is the long stick. The first thing I should have introduced that I'm going to now introduce again is when I backpedal and shuffle, my stick is facing this wall the whole time. My hands are always quiet. So, and that's the same way I learned how to play hockey and skate. Like I'm using my legs and hips and feet, right? And I can turn my shoulders a little bit, but my stick is towards the opponent. So I'm here, I'm going to drop step. My stick comes right back here, drop step, like my stick's right here. Okay, my stick is nice and relaxed. I don't want kids like tight, like up here with their left hand. I don't want them like this, like awkward. I just tell them like, here, stance, hands out, sit down. And their left hand should kind of fall near their knee, maybe a little bit, somewhere between their knee and their hip. Some kids like, for some reason, are just more comfortable here. But I'm like, I hate this. I see PLL guys coaching this. I'm like, what are you guys doing? This is not good for the sport. This is like, we're all watching you guys. The best players in the world. I'm like, yeah, I guess if you're 6'3", 220, you can hold your stick however you want. But we're teaching like, 95-pound kids soaking wet. I'm gonna teach them how to get maximum athletic, stick out, strong, okay? And like cross-checking strong, poking strong, slapping strong. I don't want them here. It's how can you throw a check for me, right? So I'll go to the grave on that one with those guys. I haven't challenged them yet on social media. It's not my style, but I wanted to. So now we're gonna do a crossover. So crossover, all it is I'm kind of asking our players to do something almost impossible, but once they get it, it's kind of cool how they look. We're actually asking their hips and shoulders and stick to be this way, or really their shoulders and stick and their hips and feet to be this way, like 90 degrees, right? And you watch the highest level, like disciplined high school pro defensemen, college defensemen, they can do that. And this way is easier. This way it's not too crazy. I'm getting my stick this way, and the player I'm playing, remember, they're on the end of my stick. So the end of my stick, this is like a fun little definition, is where the shaft meets the head. That's the end of my stick. I keep guys on the end of my stick. It's an easy thing to teach kids. This is the end of your stick, keep guys on the end of your stick. I stole that from like the Penn coach. I just kept hearing them in our game, like end of your stick, end of your stick, end of your stick. And I was like, man, their defensemen are like adjusting. They'd be like right on top of a guy, and they'd like back off and get the guy right back to the end of their stick. And I was like, that's so easy to teach the kids, so we're gonna do that. So we're backpedaling, shuffle, crossover, keeping guys on the end of my stick. And here I'm trailing, okay? Here I'm trailing a guy. The first time I do this, they're doing it skeleton, no dummy dodging. Does that make sense? So right now I'm just kind of like picturing a guy here, small steps, and so it's really tight here. So, but what I do here, when you come around a drop step, I'm trying to keep space with the guy. What we gotta do is we crossover run. My step here is like this because I have to recreate 6 feet. Now I'm back to the end of my stick. If I just step here and a guy's right here, I'm gonna run with a guy right on top of him, and now the offensive guy always has an advantage out of a turn if you can't recreate 6 feet. That goal line is trickier because you can't trail too much. So it's that there has to be a whole nother talk on goal line stuff. But here, backpedal, shuffle, crossover, then I'm gonna drop step. I take maybe 1 or 2 steps to recreate 6 feet. This is where it's harder for a righty to kind of get like this, but you'll see, I don't want guys turning the wrists over. You just kind of want to be like right here. So your body, again, a righty guarding a righty, pretty comfortable. Lefty guarding a lefty, not that hard to get your stick this way, your feet this way. But when I'm a righty guarding a lefty, a little trickier. The kids that can do this, it's unbelievable. Like the best defenseman I've seen to do it was Joe Fletcher from Loyola, and he played pro. He was the best defenseman in college lacrosse. Kind of an awkward kid, and almost looked more awkward because he was so good at like doing this. He'd get really low, but he was so committed to doing what the coach. They were just doing this drill, and he got so committed to keeping his stick out, matching feet with his opponent, and he got pretty much flawless at it. And he was just really good with his stick. So gap. So we did shuffle crossover. Yep.
Just a question on that stick position. So they're kind of like crossover versus.
It's not. You don't want to turn your hands over. I'm still. Remember, you here. You want to be comfortable. But yeah, you're going to be a little more. Like it's not. You don't want to turn the wrists over. So when I'm going to show this part. When we do gap, you're going to hear me say like pop. When I'm coaching kids, pop, trail, stick length, match feet. So if I can pop a guy out of a turn, trail by a step, get back to stick length, and then match feet, you don't get beat. So that comes exactly what you're saying. So when I come here, playing a guy, now I'll have a dummy dodger go. When I'm guarding a righty, I'm going to keep my stick right in their back pocket. Okay, so back pocket right here, right on their back of their. The target's their hip, so I'm in the back of their hip, and when I come around the other one, I'm going to be in their front pocket. So back pocket, front pocket. So right here, I'm coming this way. Guy changes direction, hands on. That's my pop. That's just a cross check. It's not a lunge. It's a pop. It's like a jab. And like you watch like boxers. I want my defensemen to be like boxers, like balance, like jab, jab. They're gonna be jabbing. They're not gonna be like haymaker, right? You don't want these guys leaving their feet. It's just gonna be right here, little jabs. And you never want the right hand, if I'm a righty, lower than the left hand. It's gotta be even or above. This is a weak. I call this like weak cross check. So you want to be here. So I cross check. So pop. I let the offensive guy get just a step. And that's a really hard thing to teach kids because they get nervous. But if they step this way, what's the guy going to do? Roll back the other way. That happens. I teach my offensive guys to do that every time. Because how many kids trail well enough out of the turn? They're not taught to do it, so they don't. So pop. And then right here, I go right back to the front pocket. So it's awkward at first. You'll see guys kind of feel like they want to be here. But I'm like, get your stick out. And then pop, back pocket, and go, pop, front pocket. And I'm trailing out of those turns, yeah.
Those pops are all on the hip?
Yeah, and I know it's trickier, your guys' level, like they call some cross checks, but I like my hands, I just gotta go this far, and I just, right here. Like if I had a piece of tape in the middle of my hands, that's what I'm aiming, that's what's trying to hit the target.
Where are you telling the defensive player to be looking? Numbers, hips, pockets?
So from here, just like back of the jersey, I see their numbers in the back. And then my actual, I can see if that's number 18, I can see number 18, and I'm hitting like the bottom of the 1. And then on this side, I'm gonna hit like the bottom of the 8. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna hit, pick a number. You should be able to see the number. You gotta be careful they don't like crush a kid from behind. I haven't seen many penalties from it, honestly. If they're under control and they're just like cross-checking the guy's hip, it's when like they're just like real wide, like wailing on a guy up high. If they can stay under their elbows and stay on their hips, I don't see that many calls. It's a be a good thing to talk to Kevin about, but they gotta give the defensive guy a chance. Or you can tell which way lacrosse is going though with sixes. Like they're trying to make the game like 23 to 22 every game. I'm like, you gotta give the defensive guy something. But yeah.
One thing you can emphasize with that is don't block out your arm.
Yes. Well, that goes back to jabbing and not throwing a haymaker. Exactly. Like if you can show that you're just punching, it's less likely. If you go like this, or if you throw a check from up here, and you even scrape anywhere near the plastic on their helmet, like you're gonna get a call. But if you kind of keep things tight, jabs and like hard slaps, it's actually more efficient. Like that's how I like to coach my kids, and honestly, you get less calls the more disciplined they are. And then the last thing is like you can also do this with the cross checker. If you notice like kids like cringing when they're dummy dodging with each other, you want to get a lot of reps with this. Just have them like punch. It's going to be weird for them to kind of not know where their stick is. So just tell them to back off a little, like keep a little like this much gap between this and the guy, and then see the back of their jersey, punch them. Just get cross check reps. So many kids like don't know how to cross check, and it's amazing like how some really good players that I work with. High school guys too, they just don't know where to put their hands on guys. They don't know when to cross check, they don't know how to cross check. And just because I want to get this last part in for time. So this is where you build in field awareness. So I call this like paint approaches. So again, you can define the paint however you want. Like whatever you think is like the dangerous area. I just kind of come like this for high school, college, middle school. There's a little more flexibility, leeway, whatever. But it doesn't matter. We're just working on the footwork. So I'll line guys up on the pipes, and I'll have 2 guys come out on a cone. One is approaching lefties, one is approaching righties. So you're working on a lot of the same skill sets we did in the W approach drill. Break down, stick length, back pedal, shuffle, come back in. Break down, stick length, back pedal, shuffle, come back in. But I'm working on like left foot on this side. I'm working on right foot on this side. But you can send 2 guys at once. Once they get to the second cone, next guys can step up. And you just think if you have only 10 defensemen, you can finish this drill in 5 minutes and get a ton of reps. So that's huge. Like figuring out a way to get tons of approach reps from different areas. And what I find is guys really struggle with all these areas, but especially out of the corners. They don't know what to do. When I'm asking guys, so let's say I'm playing this cone right here. Let's say it's a righty. I'm approaching like this, right up on it, stick length, right foot on this cone. When I first tell a kid to do the drill, they're trying to get 3 extra steps higher to take away the middle, and they're just getting sprinted by for a shot. So if you're teaching kids to get so high that, yeah, you're not going to give up the middle, but you're just giving straight lines to the cage, way easier for the offense, right? And then it's also more steps for your defenseman. So it's like a full second difference. They're not as efficient getting to the ball. But I'm like, we're inside, we're getting out to the ball, we're getting sticks on, next guy's doing the same thing. And so this guy's gonna approach right foot on right foot, this guy's gonna approach left foot on left foot. So if I'm approaching a wing guy, I'm literally just like facing the sideline, and I'm just getting left foot on left foot or right foot on right foot. That gives me a full step upfield. If your kids move their feet, back pedal and shuffle, they'll be able to take away top side. What's frustrating is when they do the right approach, don't move their feet right. Even some back pedal, but if they don't shuffle, they can still give up top side. They don't adjust. Like Dodgers will kind of lull them to sweep. Like they'll be in the right approach, but they won't move their feet and maintain that approach. Does that make sense? Like you gotta maintain left foot and left foot, left foot and left foot, left foot and left foot on left foot for those first 2 steps of the dodge. And I would say 9 out of 10 times the defenseman wins. But if they can't get there and maintain it, you can't win. So, yep.
So that, I can see the diagram there. It looks like the combination on right to right or left to left is because you're cheating to the center a little bit.
Yeah, left foot on left foot, right foot on right foot, because you're taking away the middle. Yeah. I'm just saying I don't send my guys all the way up here because you're asking them almost to do something impossible. You're asking them to get super high. The guy's already at the edge of the paint. We got to get our stick to him. We got to get hands on him. We got to disrupt the offense, and even if they get a little step, we're stick length, we can kind of disrupt their hands and shots. It's much harder. You watch basketball, any sport, hockey, any sport where you're disrupting a shooter and contesting a shot makes it harder. Uncontested shots, like go watch March Madness, they just go in like every time. Contested shots, like the shooting percentage is way lower. So I'm all about like contesting shots. Just like get your stick in, like you see like Yale, I hate Yale because I went to their rival school, but I love the way they play defense. They're like diving with their sticks just to get a piece of a guy's hands, and it like works. They block shots, they do whatever they can to contest shots. So these corner approach, this is similar concept to up top. I don't snap my hips all the way to end line here. You see this guy's kind of on a 45 because this guy's coming out of the corner. If you fully extend to end line, what's the offensive guy do? He's going to sprint right underneath. And you ask Coach Marty in there, where would you rather do? Go top side and try to shoot around a guy, or go right underneath and score from the highest percentage area in the game? So, and all these kids like scoring underneath now. So I've changed the whole way I've coached defense to we still don't take away top, we still don't give up top side, but we don't give up underneath. We contest underneath really hard. Like and so if I have a defenseman I think is really good, I'm going to leave him on an island. Like we're not going to slide to him a lot. Middle school level, high school level, I'm like, you got to learn how to play like this, or you're going to get smoked underneath now. Because kids are getting so good at going underneath. They practice it, it's easy, and the offensive players are protected just by the rules. So we got they love diving, they don't mind, they know that if they get hit, it's going to be a flag. So I don't love kids getting anywhere near the crease. I don't love kids dodging behind, getting near my crease. I try to pop them out here, and then even here, I try to get my feet to go like on a 45 and get my hands on like below the cage, what this final part of the drill also simulates is I don't wait till goal line to get my hands on. I'm getting my hands on 2 to 3 yards below GLE. I'm having our goalies tell guys, like, get your hands on 2 to 3 yards below GLE. So if a guy's rounding the corner here, I'm getting my hands on here, swinging my hips, so by goal line, I've already turned them. Or else, where do they get? 5-5 goal. Watch Notre Dame, their kids, 5-5 goal, like 10 times a game. Because they're unbelievable athletes, but I don't think a lot of teams they play against can turn them early enough. So that's kind of like the concept here. And you're building field awareness. Like, it's all the same approach, left foot on left foot, but they're starting to be comfortable. I'm comfortable up top, I'm comfortable on the wing, I'm comfortable behind. And then you go to the next part, and it's the same concept, perimeter approaches. And now I have 10 different approaches. And like this like kind of something I developed when I was coaching the Harvard kids, because I just found like, man, so many teams go from the wing or the corners. So not everyone's going from the alleys. It used to just be like 1-3-2 from the alleys. Slide from the crease, help down, or pop, like help up from the backside, like pinching from the wing, whatever, like however you want to help with your 2 slide, be ready to rotate. Now it's like, if we get kids comfortable, like actually defending from anywhere, there's no stress. Like a wing dodge, a corner dodge, and like whatever, picks, doesn't matter. And so like left foot on left foot, left foot on left foot, left foot on left foot. It almost makes it easier for them. I just am like, it's all about where you angle your feet, your hips, and have your stick, and as long as you move your feet, maintain these approaches. And so if you have 20 defensemen, they could all be going at once. You could just pair them up about 10 yards away, throw it, break down, switch, next guy throw it, break down, and then they go to the next area, throw it, break down, and we're just working on like break down, back pedal, shuffle. Now the difference is, as I get to the higher levels, I have a couple 8th graders playing varsity from like their prep school teams or whatever, because I know they don't allow it in public schools, which I think is good. I think it's crazy, but these kids are good, and sometimes their teams are like, they just don't have enough guys. What I'm teaching some of these younger guys who are trying to play with the older guys is you don't stand a chance unless you get your stick to them. Like you don't. It has emphasized the importance of not getting 8 feet, but like 6 feet. Now you got to do that under control. But I've seen young kids contest some good high school players, like 7th and 8th graders, by using their stick, using their feet. Like they've done these drills for about a year, and the offensive guys aren't used to playing guys who get their sticks right in their gut, right in their hips, move their feet, and tie up their hands. And I'm like, it's emphasized how important that is. And for my short sticks, similarly, if they can kind of, I'm not as crazy about my short sticks getting their sticks out, but I'm very adamant about lining up their feet, body the same way, and getting my hands on the target early. So if I'm playing a lefty and I'm a short stick, I'm finding that, getting my hands on both sides of that target early, and all my short sticks, they're playing a guy here, they're driving guys to the corner of the field. Here, driving guys, this is the least dangerous area of the field. No one can score from the corner of the field. So all our guys everywhere, and it's our long sticks too, but the simplest way I tell my short sticks is like, you trail a guy and you drive him this way. If you're not trailing a guy and they're facing this way, the guy's gonna roll back. So you gotta stay one step. It comes back to stick length, trail by a step, match feet, so you're one step behind, driving guys this way. And that's where this little guy for a short stick is huge. You give your short stick middies, even a tackman for riding, just to work on like driving a guy one direction, it's huge. Yeah.
What's that breakdown distance on the short stick?
It's a really good question. I let them get a little tighter. It's about stick length. Because my short sticks just tend to be better athletes. Like your middies are going to be a little more fleet-footed. The D middies in high school and college are. If you have a less, sometimes I tell kids give a little more gap. Like your feet just need a little work, so just give a little more than stick length. But like stick length is kind of like repeatable for the kids. So I try to give them something that they like. If they're like, I know if I'm stick length, my left foot's on left foot. They're confident. When you got kids playing with confidence, they just play faster, right? At any level. So that's kind of like the message I'm trying to give them. It's like get in a spot where we can all replicate what we're, and then they start playing together too, which is kind of cool. And they're able to coach each other. And my favorite thing is when a young kid, when he makes a mistake, he's like, didn't approach the right way or didn't move my feet the right way. I'm like, you're in 7th grade, you're telling me that? Like, that's a win. Like, and then there's no yelling. It's less like barking at them like, you guys didn't approach the right way. I never grabbed a kid like, you didn't approach the right way. It's like, they're like, coach, I think my approach is a little off. I'm like, I know, we got to work on that. Like, it makes it a little more of like I don't know, it's easier just to communicate with your kids, I think that's a simple way to put it. When you have a rhyme or reason how to do this stuff and they get beat defensively, it's like so deflating to let in a goal, but it's like less deflating if they're like, yeah, like my approach wasn't great, and like you'll see young kids, they'll like bring it in the huddle and be like, I should have approached it better, I should have slid to you better, I didn't help down, and you're just like, wow. Like it took me till like kind of towards the end of the spring to get the 7th, 8th graders like coming together like that, but once you get there, it's like that to me is like the biggest win.
I think they changed that rule actually this year.
They can't like
for 8th graders playing.
What rule?
Them playing up for varsity.
Oh yeah. Oh, they can do it?
If they're at the same school.
Oh wow.
They're physically on the same property.
Yeah.
8th graders can play.
Yeah, it's hard to do that as an offense
Graders are in a different building. My son plays for St. Bede's, so
oh, okay.
we lost all of our 8th graders this year.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, I think it's like if they're ready, but I think most of them, like as a defenseman, probably not ready, even if you're really, really good. I think practicing with varsity can be a good experience, as long as you don't get killed, but I think like it's just like size-wise, what we're asking, they can do these drills even perfectly, but once they play against the high school athletes, a lot harder. We have time for questions, so yeah.
So with the drills that you're teaching to your defensemen, do you teach how to identify like a slide or
Tons. Like, yeah, I'm saying this not in this 45-minute session, but yeah, when I teach off ball, like positioning, posture, and like pick play, slide play, there's so many drills for that. It's like, it's crazy. That's what I was saying to Kevin and Coach Marty, like, there's a lot. I mean, we're teaching just basic on ball. We didn't teach anything about goal line defense, nothing about stick work, ground balls, and nothing about off ball play. This is just kind of like I said, bread and butter. And so getting the bread and butter for that stuff's critical too. So there's a lot of stuff. Like in when I was coaching at Harvard in the fall, we got like 2 1-hour sessions a week with the defensemen. So I was like, we had 10 1-hour sessions. So it's like in those 10 1-hour sessions, how do I get all this in? That's 10 hours. So I'm like, that's how long it took to kind of get some of these concepts. And then I was like, you guys now have to work on this till February, and then we start the season. It's got to be like dialed in. So
with your younger kids, do you tend to teach a man-to-man, or do you?
Yeah. I'm like. I mean, I have a zone ready for, I guess, high school. I guess you could for 8th grade too, because a lot of it's similar concepts to man down. So once you start teaching man down, once they click that, you're like, all right, we could probably run a zone. If they know how to do like a 5-man share on man down. But I would say all about, like, for the kids' development, I'm a huge proponent of man-to-man. Like, if they're running zone, they're not going to be able to develop on-ball skills as much. And if we're talking 5th to 8th graders, I want them to just develop it. I want the kids that like work with me to like get more confidence, get better, and be ready. Like, you know, the higher level ones walk into 9th grade, they want to make varsity. The 9th graders that are in varsity want to make varsity as a sophomore. Like, they all have like different goals, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to get them better. So I find that when I'm coaching a team, I'm like man-to-man, good help. Like, we do really good off-ball stuff, but I limit how much zone we do, because I think it's just, with the shot clock and everything, I'm like, it also, like, even if the zone works, I'm like, man, I feel like a jerk to the other guys, because like they only have like 60 to 80 seconds, if there is a shot clock, you know what I mean, to like get a shot off. And I'm like, for the game, I think it's just better, the flow of the game, to just run man-to-man. And I think if they get good at it, they'll be, if not more effective.
Getting under picks?
Yeah, so pick play is a whole other thing. Short, like big, little, most of the time I'm teaching kids to get like around picks. Like, if I'm playing a guy and the pick's here, I'm like letting them slough off and get around it and meet on the other side. I have my short sticks, like hug the picker. Yeah. But like like big, I want like all my poles to be able to play the ball, so I'm much more comfortable like them switching. So like I usually keep, if I know I have an on-ball guy stick length, the guy on the picker stays stick length with him until he's ready to switch. I see other kids like playing picks, their guys going to set a pick and they're 10 yards away. I'm like, yo, get up on the pick. And if you get up on the pick, you can either switch or you can get a guy through, but at least you have an option. If you're just way off, you're not going to be able to like, so your kids have to be like, have some athletic understanding and physicality to actually like stay stick length from a guy, but that's kind of how there's a lot of drills that go into that too.
Yeah, I was going to say, any suggested drills or we
Yeah, it's a lot of similar stuff with a pick, yeah. But I don't think they're, yeah.
I just ran out and I talked to the representatives from the boys officials. The way you explain a pop will not be called a penalty.
Won't be. Oh, that's good, because I would have really had to like backtrack. Yeah, no, I think if it was, I'd have to go like, you know, we'd have to recreate. It's just, yeah, exactly. It's as long as it's a. I mean, think. I'm like here. This can't be a penalty. Our game would be
On the hip.
yeah, game would deteriorate too fast. Yeah, we gotta. It makes it fun.
Are we gonna encourage creative play during these drills?
Yes. So when you add dummy dodgers and you do it live, it's all creative. So a lot of these drills are definitely going to seem more robotic to the kids. But the second you're like, all right, now we're competing, we're going live. Even if it's just defenseman, you're going to dummy dodge. Now I'm going to get you in that position, and like we'll show like when you can throw a check and kind of do that type of stuff. When you pop, every dodge is going to be a little different. Getting our hands on, getting our stick on, which checks to throw against the righty, which checks to throw against the lefty. But that's so far beyond for these, I'm like, get this right. And definitely the first 2 weeks, some kids, once it clicks, they're like, wow, that's awesome. The first couple times, they're trying to figure it out, I think. Just establish good body positioning, foot, stick positioning, the creativity comes after that, just like offense. Once you learn how to do things the right way, get open, move the ball, like your stick works a lot sharper, the creativity will come. But you can't just teach like behind the backs, like right from the get-go. You know what I mean? Like learn how to catch really well first, and then you can do whatever you want. All right. Any more questions? I know Lars, we're pretty tight on time, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys?
This is
all right.
good, thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks.
Guys, you're all staying here. Take a couple minutes. We're going to go get another coffee. We're going to go to the bathroom and come back in, and Sean Corp will start up shortly.
Lars,
yep.
I'm going to watch him play right now.
I will see you at the game.
Are you going?
I'm going to go once we're done.
I texted him. I was like, get me on the list.